In a previous video, I talked about budgeting. Now, what I didn't talk about was that you could only budget so far. Like, you can't budget yourself out of poverty, or, you can't budget yourself out of not making enough money. At the end of the day, something has to give. Either you're going to need to make more money, or you're going to need to find a way to drastically reduce your expenses. In my case, I decided to go with whatever it took to reduce my expenses, which included moving out of Canada. But for you, that might not work. In your case, it may actually be easier for you to make more money. So I'm going to talk about some ways that you can make more money. This won't be an exhaustive list because it'll just be based off of my experience and the things that I've seen, but I hope that you'll still find this helpful. And before I continue, I do want to let you know what you're in for on this channel. So I retired early, and I did so without having $1 million or a 6-figure savings or winning the lottery. And I created this channel to show others that they can live any life that they want, even if they don't have much money. And I hope that this channel inspires you to do that. So going back to the topic, the 3 ways to make some more money are to get a better job, find ways to get money without trading your time for it, and starting a business. I'm going to break down each of these. So the first way I mentioned, a way that you can make more money, is to get a better job. And this is going to be twofold. I'm going to talk about the aspect of desperation and then touch on looking for a better job. So to touch on desperation and why I think it's important to mention, I understand that not being desperate for work is very, very difficult because the bills are due now and there are things that need to be paid yesterday, right? Like, I get it. But when you're desperate, it really and truly makes it more difficult for you to find opportunities that may be better because you're just trying to grab anything that'll help keep you afloat, which could also include other sucky jobs. When you're desperate, you're less likely to see red flags in job postings, or you may become more susceptible to falling for scams, or maybe more likely to accept jobs that don't pay what you need. So my advice is, if you have a job right now, literally any job, this is the perfect opportunity for you to look for a better one. Even if you just got hired last week, it doesn't matter. These companies aren't loyal to you, and you cannot afford to be loyal to these companies. Your money is literally at stake. So if you have a job right now, even if you just got hired, it is the perfect opportunity to look for a better one, because then, you can take your time sorting through the job listings to find the ones that work for you. And if you don't have a job, it may be helpful to take a job that you wouldn't initially think of and then start your official job search for one that pays what you need. And I'll talk a little more about finding a job outside of your field a little later. Now, to talk about getting a better job. Firstly, if you want to stay working in your field or industry, something that I've done and that you may find helpful is that I make a note or list of all the things I need from my next job at the minimum. Like if I need a certain amount of pay, or I need certain benefits, or if I need to prioritize finding something easier to do. Figuring out what you need from that next job and then noting it down will help you keep those things top of mind when you're looking for the next job, which is great because now that you know what you want from your next job search, you know what you don't want, and you know the types of job postings that you want to avoid. So to give an example, when I was looking for work, a few things that were on my list were A, any job I applied for must list the benefits in the job posting somewhere, and these need to be actual benefits, not foolishness like, you can work with a high-performing team, because I don't care about that. That benefits the company, not me. I need to see tangible benefits like health insurance, dental insurance, stuff like that. B, the job must list the salary range, or I need to be able to get some information about the salary from somewhere, like Glassdoor or Payscale or something. This is to help ensure that I'm not wasting my time because, I didn't have the time or the energy or the mental capacity to negotiate with some job for higher pay. I just need to see if what they're offering is within what I'm looking for. And C, the environment of the job. So in my case, the job had to be fully remote. So no hybrid, no half remote job. I never wanted to be required to step into an office ever. Like, I require focus and I work best when I'm at home. So I needed to have a fully remote job. So these are the things that I kept in mind when I was searching for a job. But in addition to all of these things that I've mentioned, I also do want to specifically mention job hopping. Like, I mentioned not being loyal to these jobs and moving on to the next job, but I want to clarify that I'm specifically talking about job hopping. If you do want to stay in your industry, just finding another job is the best way to increase your income. Companies tend to have larger acquisition budgets than retention budgets, so you will definitely increase your income just by switching jobs every 1 to 3 years or so. In fact, if you stay at your job longer than 3 years, you're very likely losing money. Like, seriously, don't be loyal to these jobs. So I'll give an example. A few years ago, I went from making about $18 an hour to a salary of $42,000 a year to a salary of $60,000 a year within 8 months, just because I job hopped. So I quit that $18 an hour job in September. I had the $42,000 a year job in January. Then I quit that job and I had the $60,000 a year job by May. Had I left the last job, so that $60,000 a year job, had I left that job a year or two in, I'm certain that I would have made a lot more money. So don't let these companies lie to you about loyalty. Make sure to get your coins. Now, the next aspect to think about when getting a better job or getting more money is to consider things that you wouldn't normally do. So I understand that this can kind of suck or be daunting because you may have gone to school for a particular thing, or maybe you feel that you're only good at a particular thing, but I promise you are not a one-trick pony, even if you think you are. There are other things that you can do. So in my case, I actually worked in a factory, on a factory line, helping to make cars. I never initially anticipated doing anything like that. I'm sure like other people didn't initially think I would be the type of person to do that type of work either, because I can come across as kind of dainty. And people don't usually think that people like me can or would work that type of job. That job also had nothing to do with what I went to school for, right? But I did the job because I needed money. Like, I probably could have looked for something in or closer to my field, but I was paying for schooling myself and I needed money, and that job was the best pay I could get at the time. So I think it can be important to consider other jobs outside of your field, as long as they're paying you more money. Like, could you work in a factory? There are different types of factories that need different types of skill levels. Could you maybe drive a truck? If it's, fairly easy to get a trucking license in your area, it could be worth considering. Would it pay more for you to deal with the garbage and recycling in your city? Things like that. It may be worth considering jobs outside of what you'd usually do. So you may want to take a look at all of the job listings available and all of the different pay ranges and see what you can get. The last thing that I've done when I needed to make more money with jobs was to get multiple jobs. I actually hate having to mention this because it really sucks that getting one job alone isn't enough for many of us, but getting multiple jobs did help me for a while. So in my case, it was easier for me because I had one in-person job and 2 remote jobs, and remote jobs can be a lot more flexible than in-person ones. So remember that factory that I mentioned? After I completed school and I left that job, I went back to it because, I needed money. But when I went back, I did have 2 remote jobs. So I'd work that in-person factory job like Monday through Friday, and then I'd come home and then I'd do my 2 remote jobs either when I got home from work or on the weekend. If you're going to do multiple jobs, I would definitely recommend either having them all be work from home jobs or like one in-person job and then a couple of remote jobs, because again, these work from home jobs usually have a lot more flexibility than these in-person ones. And I do want to quickly mention here that I did create an ebook about getting a remote job. It has a whole bunch of information about like the types of jobs you can get working from home. There are a lot more than you would think. So it goes over all types of jobs, technical, non-technical. It goes over avoiding scams, job tips, job sites, stuff like that. I'll link it in the description below in case you're interested. So going back to what I was saying, the last thing I want to say here about working jobs is that I have seen people do some things like driving for Uber or doing delivery services. So if you can swing it and make it work for you, especially if you have a car and aren't using it much, that is definitely an option you can potentially consider. Now, the second way I mentioned that you can make more money is to do it in a way where you don't have to trade your time for it. I'm not going to really talk about investing here, which is what people typically talk about. I mean, yes, you can make more money by investing, like if you invest in real estate or the stock market or even crypto, but not everyone has the money to do that, right? And sometimes making money from those avenues can take a long time. Sometimes it can take years before you even see anything significant. So some more immediate ways that you can make money without trading your time for it is by renting out different things that you own. So I've seen people do this successfully. They might rent out their car to a company, and either the company will paint their car and use it for advertising, or the company will actually rent their car or van or truck and use it for various services. Some people, if they own any land, might rent it out for storage, or they might rent their garage space, or they might rent their driveway for parking. I've seen that this parking one can be especially lucrative if you're in or near a city. And I think this also works even if you don't own your home and you're just renting it. Some people rent out their sheds or basements or garages for studios, like for people who need a music studio or a YouTube studio or a podcast studio, stuff like that. Some people rent their cars out to other people who just need to drive from point A to point B. There are actually platforms and apps that can facilitate that, and I know people who have actually done this successfully as well. Some people rent out other items they have, like specific clothing or costumes or electronics or decor. Now, I haven't mentioned all of the things that you could rent or all of the ways that you could make money without directly trading your time for it, but I just wanted to give you some ideas about how you could make some money in that way. And if you got any ideas about what you could potentially do or rent to make some money, definitely write that down somewhere right now so that you don't forget about it later. The last way that I'm going to mention that you can make more money is by starting a business. I understand that starting a business isn't always easy, and this is something that can be daunting. However, unlike with working for someone else, there is no limit to the amount of money you can make, right? When you're working with someone else or working for someone else, there's usually going to be a cap off that they'll pay you and they're not going to pay you anymore. But when you start a business, you can make as much money as you want. And with starting a business or multiple businesses, you're also not limited to the type of things that you can do. So I'm going to see if I can find and link in the description a really helpful video that I watched about someone who started a business and now makes millions, because the concepts that they talked about were very eye-opening to me, even if you don't end up making millions, right? I think the concepts would be very interesting to you as well and could help open up your mind a bit when you're thinking about starting a business. However, I do still want to give some ideas about the types of businesses that you can start. So clearly, there's YouTube. Once you enter the YouTube Partner Program, it becomes a business because you start making money. However, even if you don't join the Partner Program just yet, you can still make money by starting a business and then using YouTube to market your business, because YouTube is a great marketing tool. Some other businesses that you can start are, you can do landscaping or cleaning. You can do business related to events. So think of things like event decor, buying and renting tents for events, buying washroom trailers and renting those out, renting out furniture, stuff like that. You can start an online business doing something. I have even seen people make money online from being NPCs, which is in gaming. An NPC just means that they're like a background character that doesn't do much and they have very templated responses. An example of this is Pinky Doll. The next type of business you can do is you can sell baked goods or you can sell food. A next thing you can do is you can teach people how to do something. literally anything, like if there is anything at all that you know how to do, you can teach people how to do it, because someone somewhere doesn't know how to do what you do. And you don't need to be an expert either, right? There are plenty of people more in the beginner stage than you are, and they want to know how to get to where you are because you're still more advanced than them. And next idea is that you can create things or items and sell them, whether it's pens or plush toys or scarves or artwork or ebooks or games or websites. Whatever you can create, you can sell. You can sell a service that you want to provide. So maybe you're not a psychologist, right? But you are really good at listening to people and could offer that as a service. Maybe you don't have the credentials to be a financial advisor, but you could be a financial educator. Maybe you're not a therapist, but you can be a life coach. Maybe you're not a teacher or a professor, but you're great at writing essays and you could do that for people or teach people how to do that themselves. Again, this is not an exhaustive list, but there are plenty of ways that you can start a business doing something and then make money from it, even if you don't really have much money right now. I'll give an example. I watch a YouTuber who makes money teaching other people how to house sit. Shout out to Stephanie Perry. And when I say teaching people how to house sit, I mean she's teaching people how to get a house sit and go through that process successfully. Like, I never would have thought that that's something that you can make money from, but she is. So I think that a great way to start thinking through which business to start is to think about all of the things that you do or can do. If there is anyone that has ever asked you how to do a particular thing, that's a great place to start, because then that means that there's some audience for that skill that you have. There are some people who, at minimum, want to learn from you or will at least hire you to do that thing for them. I also do want to mention here that along with making more money comes with, budgeting and saving it. So I do have like a little savings budget tracker. It's only like $5. And this is what I also help to keep on top of my finances. So when you start making more money, you also want to keep track of it. I'd suggest using that, but you can use whatever you want. In either case, I would just recommend tracking your finances and creating a budget. So these are some of the ways that I've made more money and the ways that I've experienced or have seen other people make more money. But I do want to mention that you don't have to do any of these things either, right? Like, you can be like me and just opt out completely. As I mentioned, I opted out of working entirely. So you can be like me, or you can do something else. You have options, but it all depends on what you want. And if making more money is what you want, then I hope that what I talked about has given you some ideas as to how you could make more money. In fact, I'd love to know if the things I mentioned helped you think through things that you could do or helped you even come up with your own ideas. Let me know in the comments below. In the meantime, if you did find this video helpful, I definitely appreciate if you could like the video and subscribe if you haven't already. Liking the video will help YouTube suggest other videos like this to you because you're telling YouTube that you like this type of content. You're also telling me that you like these videos, which will encourage me to keep making them. And subscribing will help ensure that you don't miss any of my other videos, because if you like this one, you're probably gonna like the other ones. Anyway, thanks for watching. I'll see you in the next one.